So what we're doing here today, I'm an oral historian, and basically I'm here to talk to you about the oral history methodology and how you can apply it in different projects, but we are focusing on the project that Scarabeus is doing, The Dark Side of the Moon. And they're basically trying to rewrite history, looking at the story of women astronauts. Why don't we know so much about them, and how do we bring them back into the historical record, okay? And as these two girls here were saying, they have already done different activities to looking at the history of female astronauts. But here we are looking at how do you use oral history as a methodology to collect the stories of female astronauts, okay? So what I'm going to do today, I'm just going to go through these very basic things that you do when you do an oral history project, okay? So do you know what oral history is? Have you heard about it? No? Yes?
Isn't it just kind of retelling history about verbally?
Tell me again, darling.
Is it kind of like telling of history verbally?
Yes, it's the spoken word when you tell about an event. Very good. But there's something very unique about oral history. We're going to look at that in a second. So we link it up to the project as well, but we look at the significance of oral history. Why do we do it? Okay? Of course, we're going to actually listen to some examples to get a sense of what actually oral history is, because we could be having a conversation, but it doesn't mean that it's oral history. There's something very peculiar about it. We've recorded, don't we? On a tape recorder in the old days, but you're very young, so you don't know what that is. It's all about the digital world. We have digital audio or digital video files. So we talk about that. I'm going to give you some examples. And then we talk about how do we prepare for recording an oral history interview, right? So usually preparation is as important as the recording period. So we're going to look at that, okay? So prior research and how do you conduct an oral history interview. Okay. If we obviously look at the interviewing skills, you're probably very familiar of, different people do interviews on television all the time. You see the journalists in the news, you see the chat shows, but oral history interviewing is very different, and actually is very much embodied in the principle of looking at hidden histories, the stories of different groups in society that have been hidden from the public discourse, the history with a capital H. So not the history of the kings and queens, but the history of ordinary people, okay? And so there is a particular style of asking questions that makes it oral history. And this is very important because you mustn't confuse it with the sort of journalistic style that you're probably very familiar with when you watch television and that kind of stuff. And then of course we listen to a not very good interview in the sense that maybe the interview skills aren't so good, and I want you to tell me what you think could have been done better. So it's a sort of way of reflecting back on what we'll be talking about today. And then if we have time, we'll talk about shaping an interview guide. What kind of questions are you going to ask if you were going to go out there and do an oral history interview with somebody? Does that make sense? Yeah? Very good?